All right, welcome everybody. It's August 17th. This is the week 28 of our weekly calls to prepare for the Mandel, soon to be renamed upgrade. Quick recap on what we talked about last week. We checked in on the software development process. We're waiting for RC4. There was some minor updates coming, so we can check in on how we're doing there. Checking in our progress on Jungle. We have deployed the system contracts, so we can see if there's anything coming out of testing in the last week. As a last call, we were preparing to activate power up on Kylin. We've made some progress there. We can report on that. In particular, in the context of the rebrand happening today, I want to talk about our communication plan and the progress we're making there. And we had received some feedback on D.U.N.E, which I've shared. I don't think there's probably anything more to discuss about that today. So that's, are there any other topics to add today? All right, let's get into it. Let's start with software release. How are we doing with RC4? Or are we getting an RC4? Are we going straight to final? What's the status there?
So I'll hop in. We will be having an RC4 today. And then one thing that we will also anticipate today is we'll have an RC2 for CDT. So those are the two releases that we should anticipate for today.
All right. RC4 and CDT RC2.
Mm-hmm. And CDT, I believe, is version 3.0, if that matters for this.
Yes, that helps. Thank you. 3.0.
And then just on top of that, I was going to mention that we'll have a small system contracts update going out tomorrow, just not really consequential for this release.
Okay. And then final release again. I assume will be. Is there a timeline you guys are hoping to see RC4 performing as expected before we are comfortable tagging it as a final release?
I think there's a high level of confidence in the stability of this release, since there were really just some minor bug fixes that went in. However, we've not nailed down an official timeline. I think we should be able to provide a confident update next week around where we're at, but everything's looking really great so far.
Excellent. Great. Anything else on that topic? Any questions from anyone? Beauty. Moving on then to testing on Jungle. Not sure if anyone has anything to report since the deployment of the system contracts. I think all of the feedback has come in for RC4 already, as far as I know. I don't know if anyone has anything to add. Last week, we had Michael mention there was some issues with Hyperion and older versions. But as far as I can tell, things seem to be going smoothly on Jungle. So we'll just ready to, once RC4 comes out, we'll get everyone to upgrade and run it through its paces, and then hopefully we can get that final release soon. On the Kylin stuff, making good progress there. So we've put out a few MSIGs D.U.N.E has put on Kylin just a couple days ago. One is to activate power up. The other is to deploy the system contract set code. And then we have the activate the protocol features. And also actually a fourth MSIG for the system contract set ABI. So I think because of, I haven't looked at how are we doing here? So yeah, ready for your signature there, Michael, when you get a chance. And then I think that's all we need, and we can activate power up. And
yeah, what I'll probably do is I'll work with the guys, Danny and Matthew and some of the other BPs about, I think we can flip on probably power up, but we don't want to flip all of them because that's going to,
right,
I think, trigger, forking of whatever. So probably pretty quickly, and just taking a quick assessment to make sure, like the Kangaroo nodes, they're running the software that won't fork out, things like that. But we won't be activating all of them instantaneously, although power up will probably be one of the first ones.
I think that's a good idea. We should start with power up. I'm guessing we want to maybe hold off on activating the consensus.
Anything
features.
That's going to be forking, correct? I definitely the features. I would probably say the system contracts, things like that. So that's why I haven't signed it. I went and pulled them up. It does look like they're set to expire like 2 months or something. So we have a little while. They're not going to expire in a day or two, or at least the 1 or 2 I checked. So. But I was thinking about that and like, I didn't want to approve it because then anybody could execute it. So at least we, but
I think we've withdrew our approval for this one here. So no one has approved the feature activation yet.
There you go. So that's why I haven't approved any of them. But yeah, I mean, we may trigger like power up and get that up and going. But we'll start working through that, but that'll be the forking activation on Kylin. So just want to make sure.
And I think we want to sort of treat Kylin as a dress rehearsal. So we'll get Kylin sort of in the current state of mainnet,
give or take,
and then we can kind of go through the activation process, sort of like a staging environment for the upgrade.
Perfect.
Cool. Any questions or comments on Kylin testing and preparations? All right. Communication plan. So with the impending rebrand, less than 3 hours from now, we're going to have a new name for Mandel. Can we maybe E&F can speak to, currently all of the GitHub repos are branded as Mandel, but we're going to be creating new repos or just changing the names of the repos. What's the plan for the rebrand as it pertains to the code repos and things like we've got the upgrade guide that we've published under the Mandel brand. How soon do we think that will all be rebranded to the new branding?
Yeah, I'll chime in here right quick. So the plan is to have the necessary resources to communicate all of those adjustments. So we have been managing documentation to kind of bait and switch here or point you to a new URL that's going to be a replication of these items. So we should be covered across the board, and it should happen pretty well in concert with the announcement that's coming up later today.
Excellent. So yeah, EOS Support standing by to, they haven't yet done the big blast of the upgrade guide. So we'll do that basically right when the rebrand is there, so we can, have it all branded in this new brand. And in the meantime, it's been a few weeks now, we've been very closely working with all the BPs one-on-one, letting them make sure they're prepared, that they know that's coming, that they're, if they're running V1 history, that they know what to do. So we're from the BP perspective, we're in pretty good shape. We are going to be, it's about a month away from a little more than a month from the activation. So we'll have to do a big push on the exchanges. I had a good chat yesterday with Randall. Sounds like the rapport he has with them is pretty strong. What he's been noticing is engagement from the communications he's been having so far. We're getting responses, questions. So we're feeling pretty good about, the level of engagement we have from all the stakeholders. So it's just a matter of that final push once all the documentation is updated with the new branding.
Excellent.
What else? So yeah, I shared this last week. Other than that, does anyone else have anything we'd like to discuss today?
Yeah, I actually just have a couple other things. So related to platform support, we will also have an RC for D.U.N.E. Just a couple of small fixes there. There's an issue with Windows 10 and then the path not found issue that had been serviced a while back. We may work into the release, definitely getting that one item in at least.
Okay, and then so that's an RC2, I guess?
That's correct. So it would be version 1.0 RC2, I believe.
Do we have a target date?
And that'll be Thursday.
With fixes for Windows 10 issues?
Mm-hmm. I can send the issue link in just a second.
Sure.
The one other thing that I wanted to discuss related to this section of the meeting is one thing that we've been talking about is just the management of various submodules inside of GitHub and just how some of those are existing as standalone products, some not as much. So one thing that we wanted to formally ask for support on is a survey around chain-based usage. So we have some links where we can kind of shed light on in terms of just like all of like the active forks, but really interested in getting a survey out there to understand who is using chain-based and just any sort of impact it would have on them if we chose to de-submodularize that. So that's just something that we'd like to get out there, and I can share some of the resources that we have right now.
Yeah, that'd be great. And that's different. Then there was another one about the block log, I think. So we've got a survey question prepared to send out around something about the block log. I think this is something that Ted was talking to Matthew about. Maybe Ted can refresh my memory on the specifics. And we're ready to send that out. The only reason we haven't sent it yet is we don't want to distract from the imminent, like the big get ready for September 21 push right now.
What was the question on the blocks from Matthew? I'm sorry.
There was a survey, I think, that you had commissioned around feedback on block logs, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Yeah, I did. So with Matthew Darwin. So the question was, do any of the block producers want to go back to having block log splitting where it produces small files versus the way we're doing it today by punching holes in the block log and then compressing it? We have gotten a little bit of feedback. I haven't gotten the results from Matthew Darwin. We don't need it for release. It's not needed until we put out the next release, which likely will be in the March, April timeframe.
Yeah.
So it was just a survey we wanted Randall to run to ask the block producers if they preferred that format that had been used in 2.1 of the small files. And Matthew Darwin himself said he had not only liked that, but had a couple of upgrades to that process he would like to see, but he was going to pull the rest of them.
Great. So yeah, that survey question has been drafted but not sent, and the only reason we held it back is because we don't want to conflict with the attention on get ready for September 21st, which is that big push is going to be coming now. So we can send that soon, maybe next week. And this sounds like this is a different survey then, not related to that question.
That's correct. And I don't think that this is urgent in terms of it doesn't need to be any sort of distraction to the immediate actions we're taking right now. Just trying to get a pulse out there.
Great. And it was, sorry, how do I describe that? Survey for?
Just chain-based utilization. I think that we want to know who is actively using it and who would have any sort of dependencies that would be impactful if we chose to de-submodularize it.
So today
Sure.
it lives in its own repo, and so people can use it as a standalone piece of software. If we desubmodularize it and pull it into the main repo, at that point, people would have a harder time trying to use it as just a standalone piece of software. It makes life easier for us. We know of one person using it that may go away from it, but we'd like to know, are there other people that are using it and would be uncomfortable if we reintegrated it into the main repo? I don't know if that makes it any clearer.
Cool. This is the...
So those are just some links to quickly view the active forks. I provided 2 URLs. Of course, there are some people who are still forked from the EOSIO version, of which we, of course, have no control over. But that's just kind of a start to dig into the scope of some people that are using it. But of course, it's not just forks.
Got it. I can add these to the issue here. Okay. So we can catch up offline to figure out exactly how do we phrase that question and then work with EOS Support to get that sent out. And yeah, we'll time it. Would this be more or less urgent than the block log question? And I don't know if they're related to each other. Should we send them together as one survey or split them out maybe a week apart?
I think that they're unrelated enough to have them be separate initiatives. In terms of urgency, I'd personally be more interested in the block log splitting feedback, but just sequencing those pretty close together would be beneficial. Sure.
And we're already, we've already got that drafted. So we can shoot to get that out next week then. Great. Anything else?
Yes. Is this currently being recorded, or is this?
It is being recorded. Anything that shouldn't be recorded? Should I stop the recording?
Nope. So the name is already out. But the name, everything was supposed to happen at noon. However, the press release essentially just went out at shortly after 9. And so now the repo will be updated and everything else will subsequently, follow through. But the name is now out. And I guess because this is recorded, it will be published later. So for those who did not know, the name is Antelope. Antelope is now the new, framework or protocol name. And the iteration of Antelope, or the release name, will be called Leap. And so everything is changed to Leap and Antelope. And Leap is the C++ implementation of Antelope. Similarly,
sounds way better than EOSIO.
Geth is the Go implementation of Ethereum. So
very
the cat's
cool.
Out of the bag, or the bunny's out of the bag, whichever one.
So sorry, what did you say?
The Git out of the field.
What did you say? Similar to Geth? What is it called?
Geth is the Go implementation of Ethereum.
Yeah.
So in EOS, we never had a naming for the implementation of. And so whenever you talk about EOS, you'd say, hey, I have an issue with EOS. What are you talking about? The coin, the protocol, the software, the network, which one are you talking about? So now we have distinct names for different things so that it starts splitting out everything. It's a little bit easier. So Antelope is the protocol. Antelope is Antelope.io is the framework. Antelope Coalition is the members actually developing the software, contributing to the development of the software. Leap is the release name. So Mandel 3.1 becomes Leap 3.1, and Leap is the implementation of, so it's the C++ implementation. So if in the future we had a Go implementation of EOS, of Node OS essentially, or if we had a Rust implementation, then we would have different names, similarly to how Ethereum has parity, it has Geth.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Okay.
So now we have Leap is the release name, and it's the first implementation. And in the future, if there were others, we'd have their names. In the future as well, once we have another release, so let's say in 6 months or whenever we have the next release, there would be another name. So it would just be similarly to how Android had, Jelly Bean and
or like Ubuntu.
Yeah, exactly. So it'd just be different names. So likely the different names in the futures will be different names of antelopes. There are multiple to choose from, so we're good. And so each release will now have a different name, but the software itself remains the same. So there's no more confusion on EOS versus EOSIO versus EOS the network versus EOS the token versus whatever it may be.
Because I see people even now in Twitter and comments and Telegram, they still get confused between EOS and EOSIO. Everybody thinks that they're going to lose the EOS tokens because they're going to be this new thing. It's very confusing for everyone. So what about this? What about the software? Is it still Nodius, Kleos, KSD?
So everything that had Mandel in front of the repo name now has been removed. So that instead of being, maybe it's a terrible example, I don't know what it'd be. Maybe help me out, Ted. Everything had the name beforehand. Those names are removed. So it just becomes D.U.N.E. It just becomes VM, CDT.
FC, Chainbase, AppBase, stuff like that. So they go back to just the standard part of their naming. And what was the EOS repo, what was the Mandel repo is now called the Leap repo.
I get it. But is it still Nodius?
It's the tools are no tools or scripts got changes to their names. Nodios, Kleos, those are all the same.
Cool.
This was all pretty rushed, and all of a sudden now we're launching 3 hours earlier than expected, and I'm a little distracted trying to get that done right now.
Is there going to be some release information on the announcement that we can piggyback on, and so we all saying the same thing?
Yes, everything will be in a blog, the ENF posts, which again, this was all due to happen at noon. We're adjusting live right now. There is a mix-up in the embargo time. So the press release to the embargo to the external media was released 3 hours early. So everything was supposed to happen at noon. So the repo switch,
block time.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with that. It is a mess up. The website will be up, the press release will be up, there's a blog up, GitHub, everything will be merged, everything will be changed, documentation, everything was supposed to occur at noon, so now we're just catching up. But yes, all of that information with all the naming, with all of the branding assets, with the logo, blah, blah, everything is going to be provided to everybody.
Is there a link to the press release you can share now?
Between now and I guess noon, yes.
No, we can't, because we can't get the site live until Jesse.
No, but I can share. I can share what basically was not leaked but released at the time that they thought was the time.
I mean, there is a non-antelope.io domain that we can share the link to. The trouble is that DNS switch wasn't scheduled till noon, and noon is 9 a.m. when Jesse would come online. The person that switches the DNS is at 6:30 a.m. their time. And
so if you click on the GitHub link, the first one there, Daniel, it'll just point to a private repo. It'll show that it's Antelope, but it's just not open yet.
Oh, and that's the logo. Okay, I like it.
Well, and if you click on the website like you did before, it's just the temporary, which has been up for months.
And it's an Antelope.
Well, yes. But anyway, so within the next 3 hours, essentially, is when all of the assets will be, will finally sink in.
Right.
Cool. Well, sorry that it came out a little bit too soon, but I'm happy that it happened before I went to bed.
Shouldn't be going to bed, Ross. That's the problem.
Yeah, I can't stay awake 24 hours.
Well, I'm surprised I don't see it with the beer in hand right now.
So this article here, is that also on your list? This, I guess, we'll be updating this image. Any references in there? Okay, so we'll stand by for when. Again, we'll send out the big blast from EOS Support once that's all ready to go.
So there are a few. There's also Investing Cube that just came out. Crypto news that just came out. Anyway,
well, it's noon somewhere, just not here.
All right. Well, that's exciting. Anyone have anything else?
Just in general, the communication for September 21st really needs to ramp up. And it really can't just be cold email, here you go. There needs to be interaction, especially with the exchanges, to minimize any potential risk. We know of the potential risk to those who are using deprecated V1, which was deprecated more than 2 years ago. That is being removed from the code. So not only was it deprecated years ago, it's now just being removed. And so it can't just be cold emails. It can't just be, here you go, it goes in a spam email. So we need to interact with those. I also really need the top 21 block producers to start engaging more. So originally at the onset, the idea was to get them to trickle in. I haven't seen that over the last couple of months. So we're going to call number 27 or 28 today, call 27. Really need that to start happening to ensure that at least they are ready for September 21st. And then for those who are currently, let's say, using V1 history that still want to provide, or that still need that data, perhaps you want to start ramping up, showcasing that at least EOS Nation, for example, provides the snapshots. If I'm not mistaken, Sweden provides them. I believe they still do. Amsterdam perhaps still does as well. So we've got a couple of sources. So there you go. So we've got a couple of sources there.
Yeah, and that's all covered in the
people
upgrade
might
guide.
not want to. But we really need to ramp that up. It really can't just be winging it. So we need to minimize the chances that we know that some people will be left behind. That's okay. Whether we extend this by a month or 2 months, they're going to wait in the last minute anyways. So it won't change anything, but we really need to at least have that communication with them. Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, we've been doing one-on-one communications with all the top 21. They're engaged.
So do you have a number of a number of people that have acknowledged that they're ready for September 21st?
Well, we don't have a final release yet. That's
number of people that have acknowledged that they're ready for September 21st, regardless of where Leap now is. Have they acknowledged that they will be ready for September 21st? Out of the top 21, how many, not just aware, but that acknowledge that they will need to upgrade to whatever version is now final at that time? So we need to start tabulating numbers.
Yeah, I can have that for our next call. Actually, a status report on everyone we've checked in, where they're at. And
number 24 is, y'all can change that.
There you go.
Have it be active and fix that problem.
Same for number 28.
So same thing with the surveys that we're sending out. It's great. What are we doing with the data that we're collecting?
Yeah, so we'll be actively, every week checking in on responses, following up. Part of the goal of that survey is really gauging that. Are you ready? Who's actually read this thing and responded? And so yeah, we're going to be. So again, today, Randall, EOS Support are going to be doing that big blast with the survey to everybody, and we'll start getting that data. By next week, hopefully we'll have some to share.
Okay, and then I saw that the email list that gets sent out oftentimes points to the generic mailbox of exchanges that anybody can get, which means likely it goes into a spam box because it's going to be a mass email. So we also need to ensure not only is it okay, we sent out to them, how many of them have acknowledged back? How many of them know that you actually exist, that this is not just spam? It's very, very important. We have no data on this right now.
Yeah, so like I said, I had a conversation with Randall about that, and from what he's seen, they are engaged. He's getting people reply to these emails, asking questions. I don't know if Randall, if you're able to talk, and if you have any specific. Do we have a percentage of? Do you have any things like open rates, click rates for the emails you've sent, and how many of the people have responded to acknowledge that they've received the information so far? But that's something that definitely we're going to want to track for this big push.
Yeah. So for September 21st, we don't have anything yet on that. So after we send the email out, then we will follow up on that and strategically try to see who is engaging with us and who we can actually start the conversations with. So regarding September 21st, we don't have anything on that. But when we sent an email out for blocks, the situation where blocks.io, we were able to get some exchanges reach out to us. Some of them wanted to know some of the most recent updates that we've had. So we were able to help some of them regarding that. But there was something that I wanted to do, which is to go to each exchange's website to make sure that when they give us the nod that they updated or upgraded, indeed they actually did it. So that's something that we still have to do. But some of them might be interacting with us and asking questions. And the only reason why with blocks.io we couldn't get 100% concrete answers from some of them were because they didn't see they didn't see the news. They didn't see an article that blocks.io was not going to move forward with EOS moving forward. They were not going to move forward with EOS. So that was something that we had to deal with. But regarding September 21st, we are going to be on top of that. Yeah.
Similarly to block one won't tell you that they stop support. And so getting somebody to tell you that they're no longer going to offer service because they're trying to negotiate, that's not going to happen. And that's the reality, unfortunately. For September 21st, the message that needs to be very clearly communicated to them is that if they are currently running V1 deprecated history, that will stop functioning. Even if they tried to start from Genesis block right now and start replaying the chain, even if they tried today, they will not have enough time before September 21st. That needs to be clearly communicated to them. So we are already too late if we have not engaged them about September 21st for those who fall in that category. It's too late, so we can't go back. For those that do mention that they are running V1 deprecated history and that they still need history, then this is where we can offer the options of running snapshots. Many of them will not want to run snapshots, or some of them will not want to run snapshots because they want to be the source of truth. Then we will need to work with them individually, but they will effectively be out of sync as of September 21st. Some of them will be comfortable with running off of snapshots, and so they'll be able to just catch up, and that'll be fine. We need to make that very, very clear to them. Even if you start today, you do not have enough time to replay the chain from scratch.
Yeah, so I think I spoke to Matthew. We have a communication going regarding the block files, and snapshots. So we would try to communicate with them and see if we can be able to provide those to the exchanges that are using V1 history.
In the future, the ENF will likely host snapshots or will take snapshots and host them as the source of truth, which may facilitate some exchanges at least using the snapshots. Otherwise, for example, a chain like Coinbase wants to run their own for very obvious reasons. Exchanges typically want to do their own. So we need to at least know which ones will be offline so that we know that withdrawals and deposits will be off for a period of time. So we need to get them to at least acknowledge that they understand this, that they start their replay of Trace API if that's the route that they choose to take, which means that they will take 2 or 3 months, which means they may be offline for a month, 2 months, depending on what they're running this on. We need to know that. We can't know that at the last minute. We need to know that as soon as possible.
All right. Yeah, we will get to it and give some feedback. Hopefully by next week, we will have everything. But we're going to be communicating with them starting today.
Awesome. And then in the top 21, Daniel, that's obviously the most important. We do know, for example, like WhaleX runs V1 deprecated history is what was said.
That's right. Yeah.
However, they may be willing to run off of a snapshot or replay or start off from a snapshot that may be a little bit easier. The exchanges in the top 21, which I believe there's only OKX, Binance, Bitfinex, and I'm missing one. Actually, that may be only it. We need to ensure that they're good as well, that they understand, and either we offer them the snapshots if they're not. I know most people are not running V1 deprecated history, but some are. So either way, we need to make sure that they're fully aware and that they acknowledge if that's the case.
Yeah. Yeah, so we've been for the past number of weeks one-on-one with each of them, but I'll get a detailed report on the status of each of them for next week.
Awesome, thank you.
And we can start actually tracking it. We're ready to start tracking here. Okay, anything else? All right, thank you everybody. We'll have an awesome day, and we'll see you next week.
Go Antelope.
Go Antelope.
Antelope. Thank you, guys.
I should still go EOS. The chain is still EOS.
The chain hasn't been rebranded, just the software.
The software. Go software.
Go
software.
Cheers, guys. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye.